What's going on, guys? My name is Arrow, and in today's video, I'm bringing you my league start plans for 319 Lake of Kalandra. So we're going to get to the build that I'm playing, but I want to start with the elephant in the room, which is why I have not been making content for the last month or so. Some things have happened in my life that have made it very difficult for me to make content. The plan as of right now is to try to ease my way back in. I'm not going to have a ton of time to play this league, but I do want to share with you guys what I'm doing. I'm going to be streaming from time to time, but I have no idea what my schedule is going to be. Unfortunately, real life has taken over. All of that said, I did have some time to theory craft a new Trickster build, which I am very excited to share with you. I haven't been able to fully test it because Trickster is obviously not in its 3.19 state yet, but I am very confident that this build is going to be a blast to play. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so the point of this build was to abuse some of the new Trickster ascendancy nodes. And in the process of creating this build, I essentially kept finding new interesting defensive layers to add on top. There are a lot of defensive layers to this build, which I think in the endgame will make it effectively immortal without a single point of armor, which I'm very excited about because I'm sick of the armor meta. So let's go through the list of defenses that this build has. On, say, day 3 gear, 100,000 evasion, which gets us very close to the evade chance cap. 100% spell suppression with the bonuses from Trickster, which will get us up to 63% spell damage reduction. 3.5k life and 3k ES, which will be recovered at the same time because of Corrupted Soul, which allows us to take damage to both pools at the same time, and then leech or heal both at the same time as well. Energy Shield Overleech from Trickster. We have Ghost Dance, and with 100k evasion, you have 3,000 Energy Shield healed every time you get hit, as long as you have Ghost Shrouds. So all of our ES will get healed every time we get hit, assuming we have a Ghost Shroud available. We're going to have full Fortify from Shield Charge because Spectral Shield Throw and Shield Charge both scale their damage from the same things we're using. Therefore, our Shield Charge will actually be able to clear for us if we want, but it's going to give us full uptime of full Fortify. We are going to have 16% of life, ES, and mana recovered on kill just from the Polymath Ascendancy node, which means if you kill 5 things, you have full health from 0. We're also going to have a 50% chance for ES recharge to start when we suppress spell damage, which is massive because recharge is so strong. And then finally, on top of that, we're going to use Steel Skin. In the super endgame, I may scale some armor and use Molten Shell, but on the budget League Start version, it's a little bit harder to get armor in, so we're just going to be using evasion. So the new Trickster is incredible. Don't listen to anybody who says it's not. It's so good, but you have to invest into it. Now, the damage that you get from Trickster without proper investment is not very good. However, there are many ways to scale the Trickster, both offensively and defensively, and we're going to go into it here. For starters, the most important node, I think, of any ascendancy is Polymath. This is massive for life and ES recovery while mapping. You can get huge amounts of it, and then more damage per mastery means you don't have to use cluster jewels and you can scale a ton of damage. If you look, you will see that we get 48% more damage from Polymath. That is because we have 16 masteries, different masteries allocated on this tree. The goal of this build when I started putting it together was how can I use as many masteries as possible and have them all actually be useful? I didn't want to just take one that didn't do anything for the build just to get 3% more damage. I wanted something like the Leech Mastery, which gives me 30% increased damage while leeching, which because of Trickster is all the time. We're always over leeching ES. So this is full uptime. So 30% damage for us ends up being 4.1% more damage. On top of that, we get 3% more damage from Polymath, and then all the recovery. So it makes this a very interesting and exciting mastery to take, which normally wouldn't be that good. So we have 16 different masteries, which gives us huge recovery and huge damage. After that, it becomes very defensive. So Escape Artist for us is huge. 1 to maximum ES per 6 evasion on our body armor. We end up getting about 2,400 evasion from our body armor, which equals, when divided by 6, 400 flat ES from our body armor. That's so much. And then on top of that, we get evasion per 1 energy shield on our helmet. It's pretty easy to get around 300 on a helmet if you craft one yourself. And that's going to give us, I don't know, like 10 to 15,000 evasion depending on our helmet. If you just had this node, say plus 400 flat ES and plus 15,000 evasion rating, you would look at this node as one of the best on the tree. So like I said, you have to build into these nodes to really make them valuable. After that, Spellbreaker makes it very easy for us to get to 100%. You only need 16% spell suppression on your gear total in order to get to spell suppression cap. So on top of getting to 100%, it gives us another 10% of spell suppressed damage to be eliminated. So in total, we're reducing 63% of spell damage. That's a ton. Then the recharge when you get suppress spell damage, which is going to be any time because we'll be at 100%. So any spell damage we take, 50% chance to start the recharge, which is just really, really nice. Soul Drinker gives us 20% increased attack speed, which is really nice. Energy Shield Leech and Overleech, which another layer of defense. Incredible. So Trickster, incredibly powerful defensively, and if you build into it, you can get almost 50% more damage just from this one node, which ends up being competitive with things like Occultist, Assassin, some of the other offensive-minded ascendancies. So let's talk about the tree and how do we get to all of these masteries? How do we end up with so many useful masteries? So the beauty of this tree is we do lots of different things with this build, and when you do a lot of different things, you end up taking a lot of different masteries. So we use a shield, we use armor, or we use evasion, we use energy shield, we use projectiles, we're attack based, we use life and ES, which allows for a few different things. We penetrate elemental damage, so we can go for the elemental mastery. So we'll talk through some of them, but we do a lot of things, and that's what allows us to go this route and not need cluster jewels. So let me give you a few examples of things that we go for that may seem a little bit non-standard in a build and how they're good for us. So this is probably one of the worst ones, the evasion and energy shield mastery that gives us +1 ES per 8 evasion on boots. It is not unreasonable to get 800 evasion boots. At Series Step, for example, if you have at Series Step, which we might use as an early league option if they're not too expensive, that gives us 100 flat ES, which is so much. We're going over here anyway to get the spell suppression and the evasion and the ES. So what's one more point to get 100 flat ES, 3% more damage, and all recovery? What else do we have here? So this is something that's very, very nice quality of life, not mandatory, doesn't work specifically for our build, but ends up being really nice. So flash charges gained, incredible, obviously for mapping and bossing. Increased flask effect is what we end up taking as our mastery, which gives us, I believe, gives us 4% more damage, 4,000 evasion rating, and some other things. So this is a nice point on its own, and then you add 3% more damage to it, and it becomes very worth taking. We use the cold mastery to convert to cold. Crit masteries, projectile speed is really nice because we're already definitely taking this wheel, so we're going to get more projectile speed. So the shards travel faster and farther. Down here, which is not a normal place a build would travel if you're up in this shadow area of the tree, but we get so much down here. We scale a bunch of frenzy charges, so all of this is really powerful. We use a shield, so we get increased defenses from our shield. Our shield is one of the most important parts of our build. Huge evasion and huge energy shield, so this is going to be really strong. And then again, just masteries everywhere, more evasion per frenzy charge. All of these end up being really, really strong for us because we are so diverse in what we do. So this is going to be the basic tree. I'll put the POB in the description, and there is a level 90 tree, and there's also a level 69 tree. As far as leveling, I actually am not entirely sure how I'm going to level yet, because I know that I'm going to go probably Spectral Helix until 28 when I can get Spectral Shield Throw. I'm going to transfer to it then, and then I'm just going to play it. You can level all the way through with Spectral Helix if you want to. It's obviously strong. It's well documented. There's a million guides for it. I'm not going to waste my time trying to build a full leveling guide because one, I don't have the time for it, and two, it already exists. So I personally am going to switch to Spectral Shield Throw at 28 because I just want to play it. And that is that for the tree. Let's dive into some item stuff. Try to go through this quickly. We're going to go top to bottom. Something that is mandatory for this build, and it's very cheap, is the Dream Feather Sword. Because we scale our damage from our shield, the sword ends up being sort of a stat stick. And you can go for things like Fizz is extra cold and like a Shaper, Scepter, things like that. And that's very strong, but it's also very expensive. Dream Feather is super cheap. Nobody uses this item. Nobody scales evasion. And if they do, this sword is so bad otherwise that it's not useful if you use your main hand to attack. However, because we use our offhand to attack, this stat stick ends up giving us a couple 100% increased attack damage. Very, very strong, mandatory for the build, probably going to be a chaos. The shield is the most important thing on the entire build. You want evasion and ES because we scale damage through the gem and through some other items to get as much evasion as possible and as much energy shield as possible. So if you can get something like 1300 evasion and 300 ES, that is going to be an incredible item. You can re-roll and harvest now. This is going to be very easy to do. Get a Supreme Spike Shield. This is the best one that you can get. It comes with some spell suppress, which is nice. And it's also the highest base stats. So you go into harvest, reforge defense more likely, and just do that until you hit a good one. And that's pretty much all you have to do. They might be expensive to try to buy something like this on the market because not a lot of people are selling evasion ES shields. They just don't look at them as valuable, so no one's picking them up. So you're gonna have to craft it yourself, so just get a good base, particularly the Supreme Spike Shield, and roll it yourself. The helmet, this has almost nothing on it. I just put some ES on it. It works with our ascendancy. You want Spectral Shield Throw fires 3 additional shard projectiles, so better clear. And then your suffixes are just gonna be resists. The chest. Huge, huge item. The reason we go Queen of the Forest, a couple reasons. One, 50% move speed is the increase that we get from this chest. 2400 evasion gives us 400 energy shield. Incredible. It also gives us life. Doesn't give us lice. Gives us life. It gives us a bunch of resists. It is just an all-around incredible item for a mapper, which is basically what this build is going to be. It should be able to kill most of the bosses. Like I said, I haven't fully tested it, but I believe it'll kill most of the bosses, not the uber stuff. The gloves, here you want to make sure that you get cold conversion, because eventually you can get a Watcher's Eye, but you want to get as much cold conversion here early on as you can, and then you also want to get Rage on hit, because Berserk is going to turn this into a boss killer. I have spell suppress on these gloves. You need to get, like I said, you need to get 16 somewhere on your gear. You can, if you want, if you can't get it anywhere on any gear, you can take these 2 points, Entrench and the node leading up to it. That gives you 17, and you can be fully capped on spell suppress with nothing on your gear. I don't recommend doing that, but you can if you need to, because you definitely want to be spell suppress capped on this build. So we'll move on to the boots. What I have here is just movement speed. We get some evasion here because our tree gives us more energy shield based on our boot evasion. So basic stuff, things that you can try to get in the end game. You don't have to get all of these things, but attack and cast speed if you've killed recently on the enchant. You want to get onslaught, elusive, tailwind, all 3 or some number of them. They're all very good for the build. Obviously getting all 3 is going to be very expensive. So if you can just early on maybe just get elusive effect or just get tailwind, it's going to be really, really strong. The amulet, there's a ton of really good options here. So what I have here is just like a basic +1 life multi-stats sort of amulet. You can kind of fill in what you need here, whether it's resists or intelligence or strength, multi, whatever you need. But there are a ton of really, really strong uniques that fit this build. So let's go from probably the most expensive to the least expensive. Ashes of the Stars. You don't need a high roll for this to be really strong. The lowest roll Ashes is still going to be like a 30% more damage multiplier off of your base. So if we put in nothing here, we have 13 and 23 on this Ashes, which are terrible rolls. It's 36% more damage. It does a lot more for us too. It gives us evasion, etc. Ashes is probably going to be expensive. I think the crappier ones are going to be a lot cheaper than they were in previous leagues. We'll see how that shakes out. I have no idea. Other options that are going to be much cheaper, the Pandemonious. This is a very cheap item. Used to be very strong, but now it competes with things like Ashes of the Stars, so it's a lot cheaper. Huge damage, 35% more damage here. It gives you blind, which is going to help you get to that evasion cap, and some cold damage. And it's just really, really strong for defenses. And now a little bit of a sleeper pick, which is an item nobody really uses. Replica Hyrri's Truth gives you Dex, which is good for our evasion. It gives you 22 Hatred, which saves you a gem slot, and also gives you 22 Hatred. It gives you Hatred mana reservation efficiency, which allows you to slot in Herald of Purity, which is, I think, 13% more damage. So on top of the, fizz damage to attacks, cold damage to attacks, and multi, which are huge damage, you're going to be able to add Herald of Purity. So if this is cheap next league, this is going to probably be your best in slot, dollar for dollar. For our ring slot, Mark of the Elder is just so good for us. It gives us ES, it gives us life, it gives us fizz and cold damage to attacks, it gives us attack damage. It's just fantastic. They're usually pretty cheap after a few days into the league. You don't need this item. You can go whatever you want for your rings, stats. You can get resists, life, ES, things like that. But I would say as you start to progress, this is going to be a very easy way to just throw some damage onto your build. And then the other one we have, it's got to be a Shaper ring. Some life, you're going to need a little bit of accuracy somewhere on your build, so a ring's a good place to get it. And then -7 mana cost helps us get down to a very sustainable 7 mana. The belt, you can go Stygian and just get life, ES, some stats, resists, again, just a filler. But once you can afford it, the Replica Soul Tether is going to give us 1,000 energy shield. And it's going to allow us to take damage to both our life and ES pools at the same time, so we can recover them both on the same time, essentially doubling the effect of our recovery, because we have so much recovery of life and ES that if we're only taking damage to our ES, you're losing half. So this is going to be a mandatory item as soon as you can afford it. It's really strong. Flasks, very basic stuff. You don't need a life flask because we're recovering so much ES, and you're just very rarely going to need to hit a life flask, so we don't even use one. So Stibnite Flask and Jade Flask to get you lots more evasion. Diamond Flask. We have an Onslaught Flask in here. If you can solve that some other way, like getting Onslaught on your boots, you can get rid of this and add something else in. And then Taste of Hate, super strong. It's actually our only physical damage reduction besides having Fortify. And it also gives us Fizz as extra cold. Super strong. As soon as you can afford Taste of Hate, get one. Moving on to the jewels, generic stuff. I have an accuracy roll on this, some life. You can get some ES. You can go Abyss Jewels, life and ES, crit multi, things like that. Replica Conquerors is really important to get our mana cost down. These are 20C-ish after a couple of days. Shouldn't be a problem to get one. I think a lot of people are going to be heisting early this league because they know that's the best way to get divines, so there's going to be a lot more heist uniques available in the pool. I think that'll lower the price of things like Replica Conquerors. And then the most important is a fairly cheap item that effectively doubles our damage. Seething Fury. It gives us base crit based on our ES on our shield, and it gives us multi for based on our energy shield on our shield. So if we have high amount of energy shield on the shield, this is just a huge boost to our damage. You can see here in this version of the build, putting this on gives us 90% more damage, getting us to 2.5 million. Just insane. So strong. I imagine these are going to be fairly cheap. I don't think a ton of people are going to play this build, so it should not be a problem for you to get one. Quickly, we'll go through the skills. So this is our very basic early game setup. Once you get a 6 link, getting Phantasmal is really nice because it gives you multi per ES on your shield. Until you have this, you don't need to jump into a high ES shield. Like if you're just league starting this and you're level 60, if you just get a really high evasion shield, that'll be good enough. But Phantasmal, as soon as you can afford it, is going to be really nice, and switching to an ES shield. Cold Pen, LE damage with attacks, inspiration, fork, and energy leech. Energy leech is really strong for us because we're always leeching energy shield, and we're going to be on full energy shield pretty much all the time with all the recovery that we have. So this is a super strong support to have. Fork, great for clear. You can drop it and run vicious projectiles, and that will give you a very nice damage boost, get us almost to 3 million with the gear that we have here, which is it's not good gear. If you move some things around, you'll be able to get this build up to 10 million DPS, no problem. So For bossing, I would recommend going to Vicious Projectiles. For our auras, Grace, Precision, Defiance Banner, and Hatred. Defiance Banner is really nice still because it gives us a bunch more evasion, and it also makes us take less damage from crits, which is super strong. You can run Herald of Purity if you get the Replica Hyrri's Truth, so that's why this is in here, and you can see it adds a ton of damage, but you have to get that amulet in order to run it. It's just some utility. Ancestral Protector on bosses, you drop that, you're going to get yourself an extra 20% damage. Frostbomb is to apply cold exposure to bosses and prevent them from regenning life, which is really nice. Blood Rage, you'll just have that for mapping. It's really nice. Our Shield Charge. Fortify is going to be on our Shield Charge. Because Shield Charge is scaled by the damage that we get for our main skill, our Shield Charge does a ton of damage. So we can go check out in here, 500k DPS on our Shield Charge. That's so much. You can clear trash. You can just Shield Charge around and it'll clear mobs. I'm not saying that you need to do that, but when you do Shield Charge into packs, it should clear packs. So this is going to give us full uptime of our Fortify. It's going to be very easy to keep up. I have Power Charge on crit attached to this in order to keep up power charges. There are probably better ways to keep them up, but for now, this is just the way that I have it solved. We'll see what I choose to do in the future. These are our boss kill buttons. I don't have them ticked here, but when you do get to a boss, you're going to have a bunch of rage because you're going to be passively generating it. You're going to enable both of these and you're going to go up to 4 million damage with this very early gear. So that's going to be really, really nice for killing those early bosses. Sniper's Mark and Mark on hit. Sniper's Mark is huge damage for us. 45% more damage against marked enemies. So you're automatically going to be marking them. You don't have to cast it. It's really nice. And then a steel skin. So to check out our end game setup, if you want to look at what we're going to be doing when we can afford all of these end game gems, you're going to want a 21 Phantasmal, and then some Awakened gems are going to be really nice. It's going to give you way more damage just by getting these better gems. Not even upgrading your gear is going to take you to 3.6 million. So that's pretty much it. I won't be playing on League Start because I'm busy this weekend, unfortunately. But if you have questions, put them in the comments of this video, or you can come out over to my Discord and tag me or DM me, and I will try to answer questions along the way. I'm so excited to play this build. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have nearly as much time to play this league, so I won't be, I won't be ahead of everybody else. Some people might play this and beat me to endgame, and then maybe you guys can help me with some of the things that you learn along the way. But that said, that's going to be it for me on this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you play it, let me know, and we'll try to work through any of the problems that we come across. This is going to be more of a journey, more of a Subtractum style. Join me on this excursion into the league and see how it goes. I'm super excited for it, and I can't wait to play the league. I'm looking forward to the Lake of Kalandra League. So thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for all the support over these last couple of months. It's been a difficult time, but I appreciate you all being there for me and supporting me, and I'm just really happy to be here. So thank you all. Have a good one, and as always, take care.